Man, oh man, Beyond the Gates. This was an interesting episode. It's not that I disliked it. It's just that I have weird feelings about it. Like on the one hand, it was really good. On the other hand, some characters made some very questionable choices, and in all honesty, I'm still giving this episode a solid 9 out of 10 because there were some really strong character moments. And I think the reason it didn't make a 10 is mainly due to the fact that, well, why in the world would Martin think it's a good idea to talk about his nightmares and all this other stuff in a public setting like the diner? More often than not, these discussions take place either at Vernon and Anita's mansion or somewhere behind closed doors, because every time Vernon would like look around after Martin would say something, I'm like, yeah, you could have shut him up any moment, but you just let him keep talking. So that's the only reason I'm docking off a point. But overall, it feels weird to have a Tuesday episode because remember, for the past 2 weeks, it's been a Monday, Thursday, Friday. But yeah, we're back to these 5-episode weeks. So let's get into the review. Yet again, we have more of the Martin nightmare, and this the fact that we get some audio here. Let's see the color of your money. Then he wakes up. So then later on, we see him and Vernon at the diner. Now, the diner scene was kind of like the highlight for me. I think the country club has some interesting moments, but I think the diner was what was really going on. Now, Mona, yeah, she did her thing yesterday, but Jan, Leslie, this is yet again why I'm just sitting here wondering, like, what did she expect would happen once the other shoe dropped? I mean, your so-called friends were nothing but pawns, and you used them to get dirt on the Duprees. And you lied about a whole bunch of stuff, like, being Eva, surrogate mom or whatever. Basically just lying through your teeth about everything. And then you expect to be forgiven or, just have it brushed under the rug like nothing ever happened. And I love that Jan went off twice, actually. And the fact that, Martin and Vernon make their way over to the diner in the midst of Jan going off on Leslie. It's like, well, hey, you can relate to me. I mean, come on. We both had, our daughters when we were really young and had to deal with a whole bunch of stuff. And yeah, you're right. But guess what? I didn't lie to my friends or anybody else about who I was. And, I didn't lie to my daughter about who the father was. Just like, come on, Leslie. It's like, if you want to have breakfast here at the diner, that's fine. But you're going to have to find another seat because I'm no friend of yours. So then Leslie just walks off. And it's crazy to me how, when you really think about it, the Duprees can run their mouths. Nicole can run her mouth. But I think for Leslie, the fact that the quote unquote friends she made, them turning their backs to her, is what actually seems to hurt her more than anything else. But yet again, I mean, yeah, your revenge was against Ted, Nicole, and the whole Duprees. Yet the people you claim to be your inner circle, you betray them as well, yet you expect them to just act like nothing happened. So Leslie's feeling dejected and she's just sitting alone. Now, that's when we get to the bit about, Martin. And it's crazy to see Twitter and people siding with Martin for one. Well, I wouldn't say siding with Martin, but actually like, wow, I can't believe how much I've been liking Martin lately. So he talks to his grandpa about his dreams coming back. And yet again, I'm just sitting here like, why are you doing this? Also, we got this new white dude who's in the corner just kind of eavesdropping on everybody. It's like, wait, is he trying to, listen in on Leslie? Maybe he's like a mole or something, but it turns out he's been eavesdropping on everybody he can. I mean, who knows? He's going to play a bigger role. I know that much. Now, he goes into detail about, the dreams and everything and how his subconscious might be eating away at him. And he wisely opts to not run for the White House. Now, while one should say, "Oh, this is great, Martin. I'm cheering for you." I'm actually not. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not. I was never looking forward to him having this dream of running for the White House. His reasoning seems rational and like he's thinking about others. Long story short, his father's affair is really what made him decide not to run for the White House. I mean, after his dad's affair and daughter and all this stuff came to the forefront and hurting his wife and, of course, Martin's mom, he's like, this has taught me the importance of being a family man and being home for dinners and all the traveling and whatnot I'd have to do on a campaign. It's like I can't be here for my mom when she needs me the most. And I mean, with all the secrets and everything, like my dad kept this secret for 20 plus years and it, got exposed. I know my mom couldn't deal with the idea of my secret coming out. And I'm just thinking to myself, yet again, this all sounds great. Oh, I'm glad Martin came to his senses. But his grandparents tried to tell him the same thing. But it's just like one of those things where if your parents or family members try to tell you something and you don't want to listen, but then when you come to your own senses or if you hear the same thing from someone else, it makes you go, oh, wow, I never thought of it that way. Because, yeah, now Martin's dumbass is finally realizing, wow, maybe I can't get a hold of my secret like I thought. Because remember when his grandparents told him, it's like, are you out of your damn mind? What about that secret, Martin? You don't think in the day and age of social media and the people who would spend millions of dollars to ruin your campaign, they couldn't unearth a secret like that? No, I got it under control. Well, now you see your daddy, who seemingly has a very, very less strenuous secret, finally came to the forefront. Now you've learned a lesson. So yeah, he's never even started a campaign, but his dreams of going for the White House are shattered, and he's just gonna, basically do what he's doing now. So the more they talk about not risking a secret getting out, the more I feel like we know, yeah, that secret is going to come out in the near future. So remember, in the midst of this, they caught wind of Jan and Leslie's debate and whatnot, and we'll come back to to the diner in just a little bit. So over at Nicole's house, Danny's being a good sister yet again, just trying to get, Nicole out of a house for moral support. And the fact that, given that she's been where Nicole is, she's trying to help out, sitting in the dark and breaking all of Bill's stuff. And I just feel like, you need to get out, hold your head high. We're going to go out. Hey, I'll be your therapist for the day. Just trust me. And of course, we know they're going to the country club, which, funny enough, Ted pulling a Bill is like, look, I'm still a member of this country club. I'm proud to have my daughter on my arm and get used to it because we're going to be out and about. So, Eva is kind of feeling out of place. And look, I ain't going to hold you. I think I mentioned this in the episode review way, way back in the day. But I'm the same kind of way. I don't come from a bougie upbringing or, fancy restaurants and whatnot. So I feel like, I don't care if I am wearing like a suit and whatnot, I would feel completely out of place at a country club. I sure would. So they walk in and Vanessa spots them from across the room. And we're introduced to a new character. Well, I don't know if she's new. Maybe she's been in a couple episodes, but I never noticed her. But Anastasia, who's essentially the country club gossip. That's the best way to put it. So from there, Ted gives Eva the good news of looking into some opportunities to do hair at some prestigious salon or something like that in the DC area. And she's like, well, yeah, that sounds great, but I'd love to do some more administrative assistant work. And he's like, well, you did very good at what you did for Nicole, but you got to remember references and things like that. And if you get a job somewhere else, they're eventually going to find out why you got let go from your previous employment. So Eva's like, oh yeah, good point. Now, from there, we go back to Danny and Nicole, who, she got her sister to get up and he's like, yeah, we'll go out and I'll tell you about how me and mom went off on Eva and Leslie so bad they're going to need therapy. So they get to the country club. That's when they spot Ted and Eva. And while they're just staring, Vanessa rushes over to grab Nicole and then Danny decides to snap on him. And thankfully, Ted holds his ground. Now, I feel a bit conflicted about this because on the one hand, okay, Ted, do your thing, kind of make up for lost time and be a supportive father for the daughter you never knew about. On the other hand, it's like, I'm not saying you can't go where you're a member of, but I think so. Show a little discernment. I mean, yeah, if you want to walk around with your daughter on your arm and whatnot, give her a taste of the good life, that's all well and good. But maybe it is a bit too soon to, go to an establishment that is a pre-establishment where it's very clear your wife is going to be there, if not one of the other family members at any given time. And he even says, well, I thought Nicole was, at home and whatnot. Well, so my sister isn't allowed to get up and, leave the house. Well, that's not the case. But yeah, I think Ted might have misstep there. Like I said, I think there's a major difference. Well, I mean, no, actually, when you think about the Bill thing, it's kind of, at least when Bill did what he did, he and Haley split for 6 months before they came back for whatever reason. But Ted, I think, you might have made the wrong move there, buddy. Even if Nicole was still at home, it's like, eh. But then, Danny doesn't miss a beat, sticking it to Eva saying, well, remember what me and my mom told you, you'll never be accepted by the Dupree family. I get it. Because there is a lot of discourse online right now about the constant bullying and whatnot. It's like, oh, Anita and Danny and the family are way too hard on Eva. And it's like, on the one hand, I do feel what you're saying, but on the other, it's like, you gotta remember what she did. Now, to be completely honest, in terms of the moments where I truly feel sorry for Eva, it's whenever Leslie mistreats her, from kicking her out to basically disowning her later in the episode. That's just painful. But the stuff with the Duprees, I can understand the anguish, but at what point is enough enough? Like, hey, if you don't want to be bothered with somebody, I get it, but like to constantly say like you'll never be one of us in this, I feel like Michael Jordan from that The Last Dance, like, and I took that personally because on my dad's side, there's some bougie folks like that who always kind of look down on me and my sister, who now try to wanna, hey, you're coming for the holidays and all. Like, I don't really rock with y'all since y'all really didn't do much for me and my sister growing up. We were just like looked down upon compared to our light-skinned cousins, and I'll leave it at that. But it's like, you know what? You never really helped me make it to where I am now. And now that I'm the only nephew or, niece or I'm a nephew, obviously, but I'm one of the only young relative that doesn't have a bunch of kids. I made some of myself and whatnot. So don't try to, make good on a relationship now. And it's like, you had the chance. So no, bump you. So yeah, Danny made me mad because of how that sounded to me, echoing from aunts and shit like that when I was younger. But taking my personal bias out of it, yeah, that's kind of a bit too much. So Eva's just sitting there like, oh God. Because Eva even said earlier, like, look, we thanks for, taking me out for breakfast and all, but we don't have to eat here. We can just go somewhere else. No. And I'm just thinking like, oh. So after, Danny puffs out her chest saying like, yeah, I let him have it all right. Nicole is sitting there with Vanessa and, earlier, she gets a text from Joey, actually, about, oh, did you think about me last night? And the moment she gets that text, that's when she calls Doug and chews him out because this man is back at the casino table. So we can assume in the last episode, because this is the next morning. So I think it's safe to assume he lost when he ran to the table again in the last episode. And now here we are yet again with him losing. So then he lies about, oh, well, I was out and about. And based off the dialogue that Vanessa tells Nicole later in the episode, I don't think that Doug mentioned his addiction. Because when she's talking to Nicole about the whole, well, let's get your mind off everything. Like, Doug didn't come home last night. Okay, that sounds a bit too close to home. Well, it's not necessarily infidelity. I feel like something's going on. It's not his hand. And yeah, so I don't think she knows about the gambling addiction. I honestly don't. And look, there are other people like, yeah, Jeremy, he did say, well, he didn't say it on screen. He was at the country club. They were sitting on the chair in the wait in like the lobby area, and she was crying. But we on screen never heard him say, hey, I have a gambling addiction. So essentially, you know, Joey just makes it simple and plain. I can gloss over the Joey stuff. Good actor. I did like his scenes with Doug because he came across as very threatening and intimidating. But he makes it clear, look, you owe me a debt. Your hand is freaked up. And if you don't want your hand like fully broken, you're going to hear me out. Talk to your wife. Let's use her real estate firm for me to launder money. Doug doesn't want to have any bit of it. So he basically says, all right, now you're cut off from all games, no tables. Basically, you can't play another penny at my casino until your current debt plus interest is paid off in full. You got 1 week. Don't make me come looking for you, because if I got to put in effort to find you, you won't like it. You won't like what happens next. So yeah, Joey is trying to cash in, basically pushing Doug up against the wall to where he has no choice but to go to his wife in order to have his debts cleared. So that's essentially what goes down with that storyline. Now, in terms of the country club, yeah, after, you know, Eva and Ted are just sitting there, Anastasia goes up to Nicole, basically saying, oh, I heard about what happened, and my condolences, and, you know, I know how it is to deal with that sort of thing. And Danny, I know you do as well, to have a cheating spouse and whatnot. So, yeah. So then that's when she decides to walk over to Nicole and Ted. I mean, not Eva and Ted, and introduce herself, and basically, oh, I heard about you being a long lost daughter. Must be a Cinderella story. It looks like somebody dressed you like a Sunday school grandmother, basically throwing shade and then walking off. And he was like, I ain't got time for this. So she gets up and runs out, and Danny gleefully, you see the way she was running? Okay, come on, yeah. Nah. So then from there, you got Ted, who comes over to the table. Now, Nicole is just telling the girl she does feel a bit better, and you're right. It did feel good to get out of the house and hold my head high and have a little breakfast and whatnot. But then Ted comes over and then it's like, I got something to say to you, Nicole. Well, she doesn't want to hear it. I'll let Nicole let me know if she wants to hear it or not. And Teddy Bear got a little, you know, stood up straight, looked her right in the eye and said, listen, I want to spend all the energy and time I can to make things right, like I told you before, and your family. And the thing is, I want to let you know, you will see me around with my children, all of them. And by this time next year, for our next anniversary, we're going to be back together and happy. And I think that's true. I honestly think that's true. Remember what I said before? How, honestly, I think given time, it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but given time, Nicole and Ted will work it out. But it's like the outside forces that, you know, are barking at Ted for Nicole's defense that will kind of slow things down. So, you know, I do think in time they will work things out. They will. So from there, you got Nicole. She does tell about Andre finding out pre-anniversary but not telling her. So I wonder if Danny's going to bring it up to Andre. He's like, you knew about the affair, you didn't tell my sister? Ew. Interesting. So from there, we go back over to the diner, and Jan is on the phone talking with Ashley about, you know, hey, did you know about Leslie? Yes, I know all the details. Well, hey, she's not much trouble. Stay away from her. And how are things going with your new roomie? And it turns out that apparently for the first time in their relationship, Derek wasn't able to get it up, because apparently the stress of living together is too much, because, you know, first thing in the morning, they're kind of having, wait, so who's going to use the kitchen first for breakfast, and who's going to take a shower? And it's just, you could tell the little things are getting under Ashley's skin. Like, you know, when Derek goes to take a shower, he just throws his shirt on the floor, and there are a lot of growing pains. And that's the thing about not just couples, but roommates in general. It's good to have, and I've said this a few times before on my other channel, that the roommate I had in Lynchburg for 5 years before we even moved in together, because we knew each other like a year or so in college. Yeah. And we met up at the mall, the food court. We just sat down. It was kind of like a pre-interview, like, so like, do you have any sort of like, habits? You don't go into people's room without knocking first or without permission. Just, we sat down for a good 20 minutes, went through all the details, and we got along. We lasted roommates for 5 years. So that ought to tell you right there, that was a good thing to do, because when it comes to living together, especially in a smaller living space like Ashley has, where you have to share a bathroom. That's, yeah. Ew. I don't think they're going to last. I think that behind the scenes, like on set, even now, Derek is still there. So I think Derek is still going to be a person in the show well into like episode 100. But in terms of the relationship with Ashley, I don't know, because now the thing is, after Derek gets out of the shower, he and Ashley have an intimate scene, and that's pretty much that. But that might have worked for now, but I don't think it's going. Eventually, it's going to. Yeah, he's going to have to leave and get his own place soon. I know that much. So from there, man, because I wonder, like, if Andre was there, I bet there wouldn't be any complications, so to speak, or lack of a connection. Now, yeah, I think I've covered just about everything. Aside from Eva, after she left the country club, she goes to the diner. And, at this point, you got Jan sitting at the counter. In a booth, you got Martin and Vernon. And then you got this mysterious white dude sitting near the window. And then you got Leslie sitting by herself at the table, and she's pissed off. So Eva runs in, apologizes. Mama, can you please let me come home? Look, I went over to the other side. The grass isn't greener. They treat me like the cow manure. It's like, I can't take it anymore. And then Leslie rips into her, and the whole diner overhears her just going in on her daughter. Well, you manipulated me. I don't want to hear that word. Essentially, you can tell Leslie is taking the pain of Mona and Jan telling her off. She's basically piling it on her daughter to the point where she gets up and moves to the counter herself, and Eva's just sitting there. And Martin, in a moment, I gotta give him props, and this is the way I stand on it. Like I mentioned earlier in the review, the fact that I can't excuse Eva's part in the scheme. The only instance of me feeling pure sympathy is when her own mom just rejects her. So Martin taking that moment to comfort Eva, and the inexcusable nature of her own parent treating her child like that, I gotta give him props for it. That was good. This wasn't a politician. This was a brother. Now I don't blame Kat if she never has this kind of dynamic with Eva for good reason, but to have Martin kind of step out like this and comfort Eva, I loved it. So Eva gets up and leaves, and then from there, Vernon gets up, and Leslie, Dana, Sherry, whatever your name is, you're going to regret turning your back on the only person that loves you. And then Jan gets up too. Oh, I knew you changed your mind. No, I just came over here to talk to you about how messed up it was that you talked to your daughter like that. And, well, you know what? I don't care what you think, or do the priest. I don't care what anybody in this diner thinks. So she just flies out of there like the wicked witch. And then soon after, Jan does the same. And then as soon as Vernon and Martin leave, that's when this mystery dude just gets up and walks out behind him. Now, let me just double check my notebook here. See if everything is good to go. I think the final scene to talk about is towards the end of the episode, where Nicole is telling the girls yet again everything is one day at a time. And Eva rushes back to find her dad there and just says, look, I went to my mom and she wants nothing to do with me. I'm just thankful that you accept me for who I am. And, they hold hands. And as soon as they do, that's when Nicole, Danny, and Vanessa come around the corner and there's a brief stare down. And that's the episode. But overall, pretty good. Like I said, the character moments of like Jan and Martin were these standouts for me. And then Leslie realizing, I got a few tricks up my sleeve. And that's when Vernon mentioned to Martin how, I don't know, she's chaos personified. And I don't feel good about her just having free reign to just be out there, because we know in the back of our mind she's scheming and stuff like that. So there's no telling what kind of hell she's going to rain down in the near future. But folks, thanks so much for tuning in. I see that on my episode 50 review, there are some newcomers and some people like, hey, I'd love to get a man's perspective on beyond the gates, and some people new to the channel. So thanks for tuning in. If you didn't know, my main channel, Our Kind of Entertainment, is all things Tyler Perry. So if you're a fan of pretty much any or all of his shows, you go over to that channel and check out my content there. In the description box, you'll find links to everything, the other YouTube channel, my social media, and everything else in between. But as always, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video.